Cool, hi everyone, welcome. Welcome back from lunch, hopefully it was good. That's right, I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about Shopertainment. I've got some slides with me, hopefully they're engaging and entertaining, as you can see up here. So, first of all, I am Chris, I'm the founder and CEO of a company called ClickIt. We basically operate at the intersection between creators and commerce, right? I think, what we're going to talk about today is I'm going to, kick you off on this kind of journey, show you sort of where we've been, where we're going, and why Shopertainment is really the next big thing. Cool, so I think the first big stat here, right? The lines between social and commerce are blurring, right? For the last couple of years, we've seen the emergence of huge e-commerce marketplaces, whether they were Lazada, whether they were Shopee, eBay, all of these different things. But very, very quickly, we're seeing now that consumers are wanting to purchase off the back of social, right? So we're seeing these network effects from platforms like Facebook, like Instagram, like TikTok. And as you can see there, 37% of consumers, now trust influencers over a brand, right? And we heard a little bit about that from Stuart before, talking about that authentic voice, talking about that trust capital, and bringing that audience to bear. So how do we really get here, I think is something that we should cover before we kind of dive deep into what Shopertainment is, right? So, you could see there, we began this kind of, nice phase of capitalism in the institution era, right? So we had big businesses, big industry, they controlled things, right? So, Hollywood is a great example. Turn of the century, it came about, it controlled like a lot of these actors, actresses, all that sort of stuff. Then we gradually moved into the techno era, right? So engineering caught up, platform capabilities. We had people build and scale these things, right? Like Facebook, like Instagram, like TikTok. And now we're really in this creator era, right? So we're in this period of democratization wherein, anybody can film content, anybody can put it online, and then anybody can make money from that. And I think that is truly exciting. So let's cover what exactly Shopertainment is, right? So Shopertainment is effectively, it's like the fusion of content, commerce, and community, right? And so for you in the audience, whether you're a content creator or whether you're a shopper, that experience is fairly uniform. So you can see, in the infographic over here, I've run through what the sort of experience looks like, okay? So, we've got a consumer there, Michael, he's 28, he loves cooking, he loves to host dinner parties, he brings his friends over, he likes trying things out. Michael is consuming content pretty much every day. A lot of us here in this room are consuming that content every single day. And one of the creators that he consumes from is a guy called Google Foods, right? So this guy's a fantastic creator. He teaches you everything you need to know about cooking steaks, right? Whether they're sous vide, they're flame grilled, whatever. So Michael's watching his videos day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out. Eventually, there's a lot of trust capital that's built up there between this creator, Google Foods, and the consumer, which is Michael. And so when Google Foods then says, hey, I'm launching a product, it's a steak marinade, it's a rub, right? Michael goes, oh, wow, I love these videos. I watch them every day. I know that this guy knows a lot about, cooking great meat and making great food. I'll make that purchase, right? And so that experience is going to become more and more integrated into all of these different platforms, right? Such that those lines between, consuming the content and then driving a commercial decision are more than blurred. They're effectively one and the same. Cool, so, talking about how successful is it, and I know that we're joined, by some people here from TikTok. I think TikTok phenomenally has done this just super, super well. We've got a case study here. So there's a Filipino fintech company called Plantina. They've basically just run one video campaign. That one video campaign effectively went viral, right? So 20 million plus views. It drove 12,000 installations at a 70-cent CPI, right? So incredible numbers by any kind of campaign. And again, it's that blurring of the line between kind of, creator and commerce that meant that, the audience had trust capital, they were willing to listen, and then off the back of that, they drove a commercial decision. And so I think that, when we think about Shopertainment and we think about the types of content being produced, the two big stats there is, 44% find it more likable than, television or radio or other forms of ATL. And the other 15%, they find it more engaging, right? So it's more connective with the fan, with the consumer, and overall it just drives, better advertising content. So, if you're sitting in the audience, you're working at a company, you're working for a brand, why should you care, right? I think fundamentally the reason you should care is because, 9 in 10 consumers today are opening apps like TikTok or Instagram, right, at least once a day. And so, as you can see here, the usage statistics in terms of minutes spent every day is monstrous, right? You've got especially younger generation consumers spending hours upon hours upon hours, consuming a lot of this content, specifically video content. And how brands use, interact, and engage with that will certainly set the future for commerce and how to build those strategies over time. Cool, and speaking of strategies, right, I think that when it comes to Shopertainment, there's really 4 key things that you need to think about, right? So the first is what your campaign strategy is going to be. Again, the panel before lunch, we heard a little bit about how creators and brands and agencies all kind of work together, but it's important, using that example of the marriage, that everyone comes together and can flesh out what that strategy looks like, and everyone's aligned on that. The second is you really want to segment your customers. I think that this has become more and more important, right? I think, performance marketing is an expensive game, and as a result, you want to be making sure that you're targeting the right type of consumers who will act on that Shopertainment decision. The third is then your channel management. So understanding exactly, okay, what channels are we going to be targeting, based on number 2, based on our customer segments, where are those consumers, what type of content are they watching, and how frequently are they watching it? And the last there is, you want to come up with a content playbook, right? I think that, overall, this sort of future of Shopertainment, it's still very, very new territory, but you don't want to come across as confusing or scattered, right? You want to come up with content that is consistent, that is uniform, that again, those consumers and the creators alike trust and understand. Cool, and if we talk a little bit about APAC, I think APAC fundamentally is one of the best markets in the world for Shopertainment, right? The explosion of TikTok commerce in Indonesia has been phenomenal. We're seeing it launch now right across the region. But if we look over here at the graph, there's some really key potential markets. So Indonesia is a fantastic market for Shopertainment. You've got high potential markets in South Korea and Japan, huge spending capacity, obviously a lot of big creators. And then you've got markets, like Thailand and Vietnam, right? Which again, they represent great kind of potential, huge consumption of live media, right? But need to sort of come up the curve a little bit more on that kind of, Shopertainment kind of commerce angle. So overall, broadly speaking, I think that this region is fantastic for this type of approach. And again, we're still very, very early. Cool. And finally, what kind of creators should you be looking at, right? I think that that's a question I get asked a lot in terms of, hey, how should I be thinking about creators? How should I be thinking about that from a brand angle, from a corporate angle? I'm probably going to talk a little bit about, a group which I want to say probably has been overlooked for a really long time. So there's 2 groups here. The first is obviously, fashion, beauty, and lifestyle. I think that's a very, very consistent bucket of creators that many, if not everybody, is familiar with. When I say creator or I say influencer, people typically tend to think about those types of content producers. But really, the second bucket there, I believe, is the most exciting, right? Which is gamers and live streamers, right? So, we're seeing this uptake in live streaming. The average user on a platform called Twitch.tv spends roughly 90 minutes a day watching Twitch. And so, you've got these, fantastic content creators who are playing video games, who are live streaming, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day. And they're particularly good at driving this kind of Shopertainment, right? Because, again, they're putting their lives out there on display for their fans. They are, real humans. They feel like there's a level of connection there. And so, by default and design, a lot of their fan base is then very receptive to the idea of Shopertainment, right? If I'm gaming or I'm live streaming for several hours a day and I say, hey, I've got this great keyboard. This keyboard helps me win X number of matches. You can grab this keyboard, hit that link below, right? A lot of those fans will convert. So overall, I think that, Shopertainment is providing a fantastic opportunity, not only for creators to monetize, but also equally for brands to get the word out there and drive those types of decisions to consumers directly. So with that, get live and get selling. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to, reach out or come see me. Awesome.
Absolutely, thank you. So come on, have a seat. We're gonna chat a little bit. I would be remiss also to not remind you that on Saturday, Chris and I are gonna do a little workshop Q&A, etc. on building Shopertainment and building shopping and what's there. So come back on Saturday and be part of that. But I want to start off with like, combining those two together. How many beauty gamers do you know? I mean, are there gamers that are also in the beauty space? Like, and like two of them, and they're amazing, right?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a great question, Jim. I think, big shout out. I think Trike is presenting.
Yeah, Trike's here, yeah.
Yeah, so Trike is here. So, he's with Tier 1. They're a huge organization in the Philippines, but they have a global talent roster. I think he's been particularly good at fusing these two kind of worlds together where, fashion, lifestyle, beauty is very quickly merging with gaming, right? Another good example is this company out of LA called 100 Thieves.
Yep.
Huge esports org and massive talent roster. One of their single largest drivers for revenue is their merchandising line. Right, and again, most of that is driven by female sales.
Wild. So Shopertainment, I want to start with Shopertainment. It's kind of a silly word, right? Where did it come from? What does it mean? What does it mean to you? Define it for me.
Yeah, so I think, Shopertainment is, when I make a purchase, Jim, I mean, maybe you're not the same, you get a little bit excited, right? You're like, yeah, I really want this thing. I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna do it. And really, it's just this kind of extension of that, right? It becomes a process. It becomes a thing where, you're not only being educated by the content creator, but you're then also participating in that with other fans or with other people to purchase those products. And so, I think Shopertainment really encapsulates the word. It's exciting, it's fun, and it's interactive.
Yeah, definitely. So this is it's a huge opportunity. We've got TikTok coming up after this. But they recently did a study where they said it's going to be a $1 trillion business in 2025 in APAC. That's a heck of a lot of growth. How is that going to happen?
Yeah, so I think that it's going to happen, mostly due to two reasons. I think the first is the uptake in these types of social platforms, right? I think the growth of TikTok in this region has been phenomenal. I think the second main reason why, in particular, it's a $1 trillion industry in Asia is that typically, the purchasing patterns here are very aspirational, right? So, people look at content creators, whether they're in fashion, beauty, gaming, sports, whatever it may be, and they aspirationally buy, right? And so for those reasons, I think that this region it's almost unmatched in terms of its growth potential.
It's so fascinating. So think about the platforms. TikTok, obviously, making a big push. How do you rate their ability to kind of take a big piece of this $1 trillion?
Yeah, I think, and obviously they're here today.
It's all right. Say nice things about them.
No. I think that they're doing a phenomenal job, right? I think that, when it comes to thinking through the infrastructure and the idea that, again, combining short form video content plus live, right? And then hooking that to an e-commerce backend, it's, not only was it so revolutionary, but I think it really means that they are going to win that space. I think we're going to see, other platforms and other kind of social networks try and compete there, but they'll just be less successful.
Well, let's go down the list here. What about, and they're not here, Facebook, Meta?
Yeah, so I think that they're going to have a little bit of trouble there. I think, the Reels product, obviously, it's come about, and I'm sure there's lots of you in the audience that use and engage with the Reels product. But because, it wasn't native, it wasn't, initially there, it's going to be difficult for them to play sort of catch up.
Alibaba.
So the Chinese are very good at live commerce. They're using things like Xiaohongshu and a lot of these other big platforms to drive this type of stuff. Fundamentally, again, TikTok is a Chinese company, right? So they are kind of all leaders in this space. And I think that, they will do that with Taobao and all that sort of stuff.
Shopee?
Yeah, I mean...
Tokopedia,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much longer those two platforms might be around for. I think, Shopee's, we'll see. But I think that they'll do a lot better if they partner up, right?
Partner up. All right, what about, and YouTube was here, probably still YouTube people here, but, what do you think about YouTube? They're putting a lot of work into it, a lot of shopping links, a lot of stuff going on. How do you rate their capability to get a big piece?
I just still, despite shorts now being pushed a lot and a lot more frequently, I still, I haven't seen Google do commerce well. And so, yeah, jury's out.
Yep. Pinduoduo coming to the US, doing a lot of interesting stuff. What about them?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they'll do well. I think that group and social shopping is a fascinating concept that's probably not so big in the West just yet. But when you combine that with Shopertainment, I see some real big potential.
Amazon.
That's a hard one. I think with Twitch.tv and their ownership stake in that,
I was going to say Twitch too, but yeah, okay. So let's say Twitch as well. We'll move that on to Twitch. What do you think about Twitch? Because you talked about gaming, and yes, gamers have an amazing ability to engage for extended periods of time and get people to spend money.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I think Twitch is Twitch is very interesting because it's effectively like the opposite of TikTok, right? It's long form content drawn out over hours and hours and hours. I think the thing about Twitch that makes it definitely a lot more, I don't want to use the word magical, but like, I think when people watch Twitch, they watch it for a really long time, and they typically tend to form these kind of like parasocial bonds, right?
Exactly.
And so that really drives the decisions.
But those parasocial bonds are the same things that also happen on YouTube. So you were, a little bit less optimistic about YouTube, even though the parasocial bonds are really strong there.
Yeah, I think though that, YouTube at the end of the day, like uploading that long form content, it is, it's manufactured, right? And I think the best thing about Twitch is it's so organic.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And Amazon shopping engine, but besides Twitch, it's like, you go buy stuff there, but it's because they're trying really hard.
Yeah, definitely.
Lazada?
Not a huge believer in it, no.
And I don't even, I pulled this off when I was doing research. I don't even know how to pronounce it, so I'm just going to ignore that. Who else? Who am I missing? What are the platforms I didn't mention that you think are going to like really crush it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like, when we think about new social platforms, one that obviously like springs to mind is BeReal. I don't know like how many people in the audience are using BeReal.
How many people are using BeReal? I was late with my BeReal. Who wants to be on a BeReal? Keep on going. We're going to be on a BeReal.
Certainly a couple of people.
You talk.
Yeah, so like BeReal, for those who don't know in the audience, it is a platform that really kind of like privileges this idea of just like being organic, right? So Jim's taking a BeReal right now. It triggers the front camera, it triggers the back camera. Yeah, nice. Yeah, that was a good BeReal.
You guys are all on BeReal.
Yeah, so, platforms like BeReal where people are kind of like really emphasizing this kind of like innate human connection, this idea of like not filtering the photos, not making it manufactured. I think those platforms are going to be pretty interesting in terms of like how we see those platforms evolve with respect to commerce, right? But
keep going. I'm filling out my BeReal.
no, that's all good. But I think that, overall, in terms of like what's next, it really is going to be, I think, in terms of the future state, this idea of like this AR and VR stuff.
Yeah.
And whoever works that stuff out, I think is going to be huge.
Well, so immersion in an AR VR platform, absolutely. But like, what is that experience like? And is it? We talk about Shopertainment and digital and physical products. What about digital products? I mean, that seems like the kind of thing you want to buy in those virtual platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think that even more broadly than that, like retail generally is just going to go towards this space, right? Now with like online food delivery and just like e-com marketplaces, 40% of transactions are now digital, right? And it's going to be a weird world. Yeah,
it's already a weird world. It's just going to get weirder. Okay, you put a couple categories up there. It was fashion, lifestyle, gaming, beauty. What about like household goods? What about as a couple other categories that weren't up there, and I want to ask you about them. So that's one of them.
Yeah, so I think like with products like household goods or also like FMCG products that are like staples,
yeah.
I think like, the biggest thing for certainly like agencies who are working with those big brands is about how to make them relevant and then connect them to creators, right? Again, the session before lunch, we heard about this idea of like having creative freedom, but also setting the script. I think it's going to be about like actually driving, what is effectively like meaningful content in that space. Good example, I work with some creators. Those creators, they get hit up by Quaker Oats all the time, right? So big brand, right? Kind of weird branding, weird positioning in the Asian market. Constantly struggles to come up with cool and relevant campaign ideas. Flip the script, like make it so that it's like, hey, we're doing high protein oats and, we're doing that on demand across like food delivery platforms. Thinking outside the box, I think is going to be best for these type of brands.
Tech products, electronic products, what about that? I mean, this is the geek in me coming out, but seems like that would be ideal, selling TVs and phones.
Yeah, and I think that's huge because like combined with Shopertainment, you can be doing the ratings or the reviews, right, in real time.
Yeah, that's my background. I'm going to go do that. Food and drink, F&B. Selling wine, drink wine, sell wine. What would be better? Or whiskey or whatever, or beer.
Yeah, F&B is huge. That's the space I operate in. So, we help creators bring food brands to life and beverage brands. I think it's going to be a massive space, right? Everyone wants to launch their own restaurant. Everyone wants to launch their own bar. If you can do that and provide the sort of pipes and rails and then combine that with Shopertainment, where everyone's either, participating in a group mukbang session or everyone's kind of like drinking, I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I want to lean in a little bit on the restaurant side since that is what you do with your day job. Do you think restaurants become hotbeds of live streaming? And do they become places where not only do you go to eat, but there's like a show going on, you're live streaming stuff? Like, how do you think about that future?
Yeah, I think it can go sort of like one of two ways. I think like we're gradually going to see probably a lot of, we certainly see this in markets like Japan and South Korea where, eating and streaming is like a very common thing. And we'll probably see that sort of proliferate into Western markets as this becomes a bigger and bigger space. In terms of like, do people want to see what's going on in a restaurant? Yeah, absolutely, right? I think The Beast I think it's on HBO, right, which shows the inner workings of a restaurant, was a fantastic show and got people really interested and excited. So, yeah. Yeah,
even the book like Kitchen Confidential, right? I mean, that was the bestseller. We all want to know what's going on. You don't want to know what goes on.
Hell's Kitchen, Gordon
Hell's
Ramsay,
Kitchen, right, exactly.
all that good stuff.
So let's talk about creators. We only have a couple minutes left, but who are the top creators that you see in Shopertainment right now? Who are some people that you can point to that you can tell the audience to go check out and follow?
Yeah, so I think that, broadly speaking, a lot of the Chinese content creators are the ones who have been leading in this space for a really long time. I think in Indonesia, we're seeing a different kind of trend. We're seeing like more kind of like micro. In terms of, I guess like the live like Shopertainment, the one who I always have to point to here is Jimmy Donaldson, which is Mr. Beast.
Yeah, Mr. Beast.
Right? Like I don't think he's not doing that live content, but when we talk really about Shopertainment, right, for those in the audience who don't know, Jimmy's making no money on any of his YouTube videos, right? It's just cash in, cash out. So these are all marketing tools and tactics to either prop up his Mr. Beast burger or to prop up his candy bar brand, Feastables, right? So he's just, he's on a whole nother level. And I think, people out there that want to learn more about this space and understand it should really go check out Mr. Beast and what he and the team are doing.
Yeah, we have a session tomorrow, by the way, on applying some of the lessons that Mr. Beast has shown us to your own channels and your own brands, your own ways you were doing things. So that was a great promo. Thank you. I appreciate it. So if you're a creator, how do you get started? What do you say to creators who want to get into this space who maybe aren't there yet?
Yeah, so I think the first is really just like understanding your audience and what it is that they want and what you think they're prepared to purchase and buy, right? Again, you don't want to have this disconnect between product and creator wherein, the audience is being sold something which is just not relevant to them. For us in F&B, that's like a very easy experience because everyone needs to eat and everyone needs to drink, right? But if you're talking through a gaming creator, then let's start with tech products or peripherals, right? So keyboards, mice, all that sort of stuff. Let's not go down the beauty route, for instance.
Right. And then turning it around to brands. How do you talk to brands about getting started in this, and what should they think about to become big in Shopertainment?
Yeah, I think brands definitely don't know what's going on right now. They're deploying a lot of the spend, and I think that they need to find good agency partners to surround themselves with that understand this, right? But for brands that want to get kind of involved in that space, again, understand what it is that you are selling, and then work out the particular type of creator that it's going to make sense to sell, right?
Yep. All right. So last thing, real quick, before we walk off, just give us the 20 seconds on Click It and what's going on there, what you're building, and how people can find out more.
Yeah, absolutely. So, here at Click It, we basically connect kitchens to creators. So we provide, effectively a merchant network for celebrities, influencers, TikTokers, Instagrammers to launch their own food brands across any on-demand and digital channel, whether it's Grab Food, Foodpanda, Instagram, whatever. So yeah, that's what we do.
Cool. Well, you're going to learn a lot more on Saturday when we talk about and do a real workshop with all of your questions, all Q&A, because I'm sorry I lied to you. We didn't go to questions. But Saturday is your chance to figure out how to actually become a leader in Shopertainment. Chris, thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks,
Appreciate
everyone.
it. Thanks. And I'm